Alright, here we have a Teenage Engineering PO-12 and the Arturia MicroBrute. And these two things, as everyone probably knows, represent probably one of the cheapest sequencers and the cheapest analog sequencer. I'm sure I'm wrong, but for their function, I think they're the cheapest ones you can actually put to practical use and have any real sort of good sounding effect from them. That said, I and other people have had some problems syncing the MicroBrute and the PO-12. Now, one thing I have not been able to do is set the PO-12 as the master. The reason through that, I believe, is the click track sent out, the gate signal, is simply too small for the MicroBrute to recognize. It just doesn't hear it, therefore it doesn't engage its patterns. So, we have to do it the other way around. The MicroBrute has to host and send its signal to the PO-12. So for starts, I'll just show you a simple patch on the MicroBrute, nothing fancy. Nice and simple so you can all hear what's going on. Right now the PO-12 is set as it normally would be to play a pattern by itself. It's hooked up the way you normally would anything. It has cable going from its output to an amp. And so does the MicroBrute. Now the MicroBrute I have going through a few pedals first and then into the amp. But yeah, in this case they're all going to the same amp. This is a 4-channel amp, therefore I can pretty much plug everything here into it. But if you have separate amps that you want to run them to, or you want to run them all to a mixer, you can do that. Basically, they're each going to output to their own separate channel, though. So the drum still makes its own noise, sends that to its own channel. And the MicroBrute still makes its own noise and sends it out to its own channel. Now, to sync them, we take another cable, and we go from the gate out to the input side of the MicroBrute, the PO-12. Now we have to set the PO-12 to sync 2. So we hold function and push BPM. Sorry, wrong button. I don't know if you guys can see the screen, but I'm sure you all have manuals. You know how to change the settings. And I apologize for the crappy camera. All I have is a GoPro, and I wasn't really sure how to film this. It's a pretty crowded area, and no one position really would do it all. So, anyways, now to get them to sync. Now, if I do something right now, nothing. Okay. Hit play. Well, it triggers it, but that's not exactly what we want. Plus, we want it to play when we're doing a pattern. So, let's build a pattern. The reason I'm going to show you how to build a pattern is because if you build a pattern that has rests in it like this. Sorry, let me stop the drum machine. Alright, not the best pattern admittedly, but it'll give me an example. Yes, so it stops. So, step 1, can't have any rests. That's pretty straightforward. I think most people understood that one. I'll show you my screen here quick for a second. Now, the only setting there that matters is the step intervals on the sequencer. I would recommend setting it to one of the lower two to start with, because if you set your rate too high, it won't work. It'll start the sequence, but it won't recognize the rest of the clicks after that because it's too, I guess the clicks are just too close together and it doesn't hear them. It's like cranking your LFO up. If you have it really low, you hear the clicks. You crank it way up, it becomes a sound all by itself. So, step 1, no rests. Step 2, really low rate. Now, let's make a pattern with no rests. Now, I find, just for musical sakes, it's simplest to keep it to an interval of 4 on your patterns, so... Sorry, mind the mosquitoes. An interval of 4, so 4, 8, 16, that sort of thing. They have a 4x4 time. It matches with the sequencer better. I mean, you can do others, but you'll get different effects. It might be cool, but start out with 4s, intervals of 4, and go from there. So. So I'll start by hitting play on the PO-12, and because it's in sync mode, nothing happens. You'll see a play marker on the screen. Then we go like this. Sorry, you guys know what it's like. You just can't help but turn a few ups. Okay, so I don't really know what else to say. It took me a while to stumble upon that combination. But once I did, I didn't have any problems. I've never had any problems unhooking it and rehooking it like I just did here in camera. So that's all I can suggest. So that's MicroBrute plugged into an amp like normal. PO-12 plugged into an amp like normal. Then connect them to via gate out on the MicroBrute to the input on the PO-12. Set the PO-12 to sync 2. Create a pattern with no rests and keep the rate from getting out of hand. You guys will get to know what out of hand is. You can play around. You certainly can turn up the intervals on the step, but once you do that, you won't be able to get the knob past about 1/4 to 1/2, depending on how you set it. And then after that, I don't know what else to say. So, and now that I think about it, I suppose you could use rests as long as they were even with the notes, so the pattern kept going at a regular rate. So I assume if you went note, rest, note, rest, note, rest, you could probably get, allow you to get a slower rate on the MicroBrute relative to the PO-12. Likewise, if you put no rest in your sequence, yet spaced out your drum beats more on the sequencer, you could do it the other way around. Anyways, I'm giving out how to make music more than I am how to set up the system now. Alright guys, so good luck. If you have any more questions, give me a shout. And for those of you who bothered to watch the end, I'll show you my new toy as a preview before I make a video on it. It is the Zoom B3. Just a digital effects pedal. It's kind of like 111 pedals in one. It's got some amp simulators, it's got distortion, wah, synth pedals, delay pedals, reverb pedals. You can run any 3 at once. It sounds great on my bass. Sounds really great on this crappy Yamaha keyboard, and it sounds really, really great with the MicroBrute, especially doing delays. It has a looper built in, it has a tuner built in. You can save all your patches. Yeah, fantastic piece of gear. Once I get more familiar, might put a video up with it. Me and my buddy are going to do a jam. yeah, guys, I'll show you the screen one last time. And yeah, the step control, it's the dial at the very top right of the screen there. Other than that, any more questions, give me a shout. I hope I covered everything. I don't know what I could be missing. You don't need to plug in the USB on the MicroBrute to make the system work. Yeah, so any questions, give me a shout. Good luck, guys. Take care. Bye.